Okay, we call it May 11th, 2017 work session for Coffee County Board of Education to order this time. Invocation. Dr. Banks.
Let us pray. Dear Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to come together tonight to do things that's feasible in this school system. I pray, Father God, in advance that everything that's done tonight will be ordained by you. I ask, Father God, that you would touch all of our board members and our superintendent and every certified and classified employee of the Coffee County board system. I ask in the name of Jesus that you would touch our students who are coming to the close of another school year. Father God, during this summer season that's about to come upon us, I pray that you will be with all of our students, the ones who have a lot and the ones who are in the needy position. I ask, Father God, that you give them food that they will continue to nourish their bodies. And I ask, Father God, that they will have the utilities in their homes that will provide great cool weather during this upcoming summer season. And Father God, when we continue to do things that you would have us to do, we pray that you will always be pleased with us. Sometimes we will make mistakes, but any mistake we hope that is out of love. And I ask, Father God, that you would just touch what's going to be taking place here tonight. Guide our thoughts from near and from afar. And let us do things decently and in order. This is our prayer in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. We ask it in Jesus Christ's most holy and righteous name. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I've got the agenda before you. Any changes need to be made, or is it satisfactory? Need a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Mr. Lott.
Second.
Ms. Miller. All in favor? Okay, Dr. Leese.
Yes, sir. We have first on the agenda District 1 candidates, and I'm going to go continue the process that we started Tuesday night. And we read a statement at the beginning of that process, and I'll read the statement and we'll move from there. If that pleases the Chairman. As announced at our last meeting on May 9th, our purpose today is to interview anyone from District 1 who timely indicated an interest in being considered to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Ronnie Johnson. I want to announce that no decision will be made today, and also that a couple of people who had conflicts with being able to meet will be interviewed today on May 11th. I think the best process for us to follow will be to have all the candidates, except for one being interviewed, wait in the lobby, which they are. I've already seen them out there. Since this is an open meeting, I know we cannot require this, but I definitely think this is how we should proceed. I also want to request to other candidates that they not discuss their interview with other candidates. And they'll be welcome to join us back in here after all the candidates have been interviewed.
Somebody want to step there and get Dr. Will. Mr. Falk, sir. Step up to the podium. The board has some questions for you.
Yes.
We're going to allow you to address the board before we ask that question, if you got anything you'd like to say.
Well, what I have to say to you tonight is that I've been in this system ever since 1961. Served 32 years in the same classroom, and I've taught many of the students that are around and about. And when the vacancy came, I thought about it for a while. And then I said, well, I've offered up 32 years. I don't know how many more years I have, but I do know that I will put forth my best effort to work with the board members and to see that the laws are kept intact with what the state requires of us. I don't problem with it, I will do what is necessary in order to make the system a better system that I would know of in the state of Georgia. And I've come to that in my mind tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Deal, thank you for being here. I've got a couple of questions I'll start off with, but let me ask you this. If you met me at the door, out campaigning, and you asked for my vote, what would your answer be for me if I ask you why you're running and what makes you feel like you'd be the best candidate?
Well, my answer would be that I have served in educational capacity, and I made every effort to assure the system that I would provide the necessary requirements in order to do the job, if it was you.
All right, thank you. One other question, and I know you touched on this briefly with your opening statement, but could you please describe current or prior involvement with our school system as a parent or guardian, the school council, PTOs, things like that? And I do appreciate your time that you've given to the system.
Yes, I served as first of all, I worked with, came in as an industrial arts instructor, and then from that I went to the Diversified Cooperative Training, which was on-the-job experience for kids so they would have some experience when they get out there in the real world. And that is still lingering in the back of my mind, that we need to be continually concerned about the future and what we can do in order to make it more applicable to all people.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Dr. Bill,
Yes.
what do you perceive the role of the Coffee County Board of Education to be?
I perceive the role as a vehicle to help and promote the educational standards in this community throughout the state.
Mr. Lott?
Bill,
Yes.
how would you handle personal differences you might have with regards to a position the board may take on a certain issue? Before you answer, I don't mean a personal difference between, say, you and Ms. Miller on the issue, but if the board votes, say 4-1, to support a certain position and you're in the minority on that vote, how do you handle situations like that going forward?
Well, first thing I would do is to analyze the situation that's involved in it, and I would pursue to find ways and means according to the educational structure that I've been taught when I was at the various schools that I attended, in order to not be partial, but to be fair. And in being fair, it will give you an opportunity to serve better with your board.
Okay. Every organization has room for improvement. What strengths do you feel you have that would help to improve the job done by this board?
I would join the board and look toward making efforts to be consistent in making decisions that affects the boys and girls of this county and in this state and nation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bill, we sure appreciate you coming out tonight and giving your time to be here and committing to
Okay, my name is Eileen Murray. I was an educator for 32 years. And most of those years I spent in math. And as I say, I'm here because I have children and I have grandchildren in this system. Well, I really have great grandchildren in this system. And I know if it had not been for those that came before me, my teachers, my principals, and the board, they had not afforded me the education that I got. See, I came from Hubbard with a dream. If it had not been for the Board of Education, had not been, of course, you know, my husband, he was my principal, and great teachers who had a concern not for the books but for the person. And because of that, I came out of Huffer, was able to go, I went the tech route, and then I came back to finish South Georgia College, because I could not go to college at the beginning because my dad already had somebody there. And I ended up at my counselors. Most important, you can take this correspondence course and it'll take you to Washington, D.C., wherever you want to go. I went that route. When I came back, started working at Carver, then somebody came along, integration came in. And they said, we need black students at South Georgia College. You want to go to college? I don't have no money to go to college. They said, we didn't ask you that. So that's how I got to where I am. On the shoulders of the others who came before me, they had a concern for me. And I want that same concern. I kind of got out of it and retired in 2006. And say, well, goodbye. But somebody calling has come back again. And as I say, not my will, but let God's will be done. And as I told all of the candidates, I'm just here for that purpose and that purpose only. And that is to, as my husband and our philosophy of education was, every child can learn at his or her rate. However, you got to have people there in place that believe in them. And if you have somebody that believes in them, then you could produce a citizen, a productive citizen. You know, whether he is, you know, God gave me a child who I still feel like he may have a little autism, but I know the system may, I know how far we go into testing. But he has come from a self-contained class to where he's being, you know, going, and a very good athlete, and he's just doing well. So I'm saying, I guess it's time for me to step forward to places maybe I don't want to be, but I'll do what I can, and that's why I'm here. And I talk a lot, so I can
We do have some questions. I'm going to start off, Ms. Murray. And you may have touched on some of this, you may have not, but if you have touched on it, just expound on it, and we'll let's talk some more. If you met me at the door, you're out knocking on doors, campaigning, and I ask you, Ms. Murray, why are you running, and what makes you the best candidate for the position? What would you share with me?
Hi, I am Irene Murray. I am an experienced educator as well as a student of the system, so I've seen it from both sides. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, and I've seen the ugly. But through it all, I've seen people who came together and made it work. And I would be one of those persons working with the others to make it work. You know, we got different people. A diverse community is even more diverse than when I was there. I only had one Hispanic student. And when she sees me now, she says, you remember I used to be on the Hispanic student. But anyway, I'm here for the student. I'm here for the community. I'm here to make things better.
Thank you. If you could, and I know you've touched on a little bit of it, but describe your current or prior involvement in our school system, either as a parent or guardian, school council, volunteer.
Well, I have an experience even today. My little great-grandchild's teacher, nurse, called me to tell me, Ms. Murray, you need to pick up your grandchild. She has asthma and she was coughing. I says, I'm in Stone Mountain. And so I gave her a number to reach to try to, you know, see about her. So I'm probably at Ambrose in and out more than anything because that's where the great-grands are. And I am also involved, I have a grandchild at West Coffee. And sometimes he'll say, girl, when you come, don't let daddy come. But anyway, I'm involved in that way because those are my grands and my great-grands. The other way I kind of stay involved, I know you've heard of the MLK committee. Every 2 years, believe it or not, I've taken children to Washington, D.C., Memphis, Nashville, all over. They said, why do you do that? I said, because I love them. I had this experience because of somebody else. So I work hard to get that experience for them. So that's my biggest involvement that I have through, you know, or either through our church. We have what, Project Read program. Our pastor wrote a grant. So I told her, don't want to teach. Reading is not mine. Math is mine, but I will cook. So I cook. Okay?
Thank you so much.
I commend you. I don't cook, so that's great. If you wouldn't mind telling me what you perceive the role of the Board of Education to be.
The Board of Education, you know, by electing your superintendent, okay, you work with him in order, the board passes, you know, laws, et cetera, that is going to help, you know, with the children. You know, you're here to represent the children. You're not here to make a reputation for yourself, you know, self-hopefulness on behalf of the kids, the students. So I feel like you're the vehicle in which all rules, regulations, et cetera, you get from the state, it comes through you. And then you know, go out into the community, get people, parents, et cetera, come in and they collaborate with you and decide what you're going to do for the children of Coffee County. That's the way I see it.
Ms. Murray, how would you handle personal differences you might have in regards to a position the board may take on a certain issue? And I don't mean personal differences, say you and I or you and somebody, but a difference between a vote, like a position that the board takes, a 4-to-1 vote, and you're not on the board. How would you handle a situation like that?
Majority rule.
So, in other words, I'm going to speak my opinion. Doesn't mean you have to agree with me. But then we can agree to be agreeable because it's not about us, it's about what's best for the children. So sometimes what I think may not be what you are, might get a little whatever. However, if everybody agreed all the time, nothing will happen. You know, if we all agree something wrong with that, you know what I mean? But I'll do my best not to be so oppositional. But I'll be oppositional in the fact that it is going to be advantageous to the children of Coffee County. That's me.
Thank you, ma'am.
Every organization has room for improvement. What strengths do you feel you have that would help to improve the job done by this board?
I think I would be a good advocate for the constituents that I represent. In other words, I would try my best in this particular district to try to field out, not just districts, but all, you know, the whole children as a whole, to, you know, represent them in a way that they could come to me and be open with me about what it is that they are asking or expecting us to do, our expectations. In other words, if you don't tell me what you expect, you know, like a teacher going to the classroom, if you don't have no expectations, then, you know, you just do what you do. But my strengths are, I'll be a good listener, and then from what I gather and collaborate with everybody else, then my decision, you know, will be based on whatever the, you know, we as a unit decide to do.
Thank you. Okay, Lisa.
All right, Ms. Murray, we sure appreciate you being here tonight, and this is, I know, an investment of your time, your effort, and we just appreciate you coming and sharing with us tonight your desire to have this seat on the Board of Education. Board members had their questions, and they've asked them, and so you've answered them, and at this point, this concludes this part of the meeting tonight. So,
well, I appreciate you all
yes, ma'am.
going outside the box to
yes, ma'am.
meet my, I went to a GREA meeting, ended up driving all the way there, just come back from Stone Mountain. The live on pocket and everything there. Everything gonna be all right. I can't stay, 'cause I gotta go call the Marriott for them to go and get my belongings. But anyway, I appreciate you. Now I got a little thing. I got all my little pouch, you know, with the little credit cards and stuff. You know, I depended on somebody else. And my friend always tell me, if you want something done, Miss Bird, you told me to do it myself. So there you go. All right, thank you very much.
As we said earlier in the opening of this session, no decision will be made tonight, but this concludes this part of the meeting. So we'll carry on. The next item on the agenda for the work session is the minutes from the previous month's meeting have been presented to the board for approval. If it pleases the board, we will place these on the consent agenda to be approved at the meeting at 7:30.
Everybody agree with it?
The next item on the agenda is the monthly financial report. We have 4 documents there. The monthly financial report, the financial comparative, the detail report, and then the East Plus 4. Mr. Travis, if you want to explain these documents to the board, that would be great.
Yes, sir. On the summary that you have on the screen for the period ending April 30, 2017, year to date, we've got a cash balance of $12,076,811.74. We had a couple of claims that weren't processed through, so our fund equity balance is $12,076,536.12. Our beginning fund balance at the start of this fiscal year, July 1, 2016, was $6,310,159.35. We've had total revenues to date of $48,165,356.92, and total expenditures equaling $42,398,980.15 for a ending month-end fund to equity of $12,076,536.12. And if we go to the comparative now, Dr. Newell. So on the comparative, a year ago this time we were at $9,057,589.56, as you can see, compared to this year. So we're just shy of $3 million above where we were a year ago.
Question. Mr. Trace, I couldn't help but notice with a smile that we put back about $500,000. I mean, not put back, but where did that? We haven't been positive over the month prior,
right,
in an awfully long time. So
that's true. So we the utilities paid their taxes during the month of April, and so we had about $1.1 million of property taxes that went in. They're scheduled to pay later than what you and I would in December, and we generally see it either March or April. It just kind of depends from one year to the other. So that's the bulk of it. The other piece, a little smaller piece, but the TABT tax that came in for the month of April was $122,000. Generally, that averages about $100,000, so it was north of $122,000. On the detail part, and I guess another aspect of that, Mr. Preston, was our expenditures it pulled back just a shade as well, but the biggest piece of that was that revenue piece from the utilities. But we saw about 100,000 less in other stuff purchased during the month of April as well. So we'll go through and look at the expenditures here in a minute. We're now at 83% of the fiscal year, and we've gotten 98.78% of our local revenues. I think I feel like we're gonna be above that number by a couple $100,000 anyway. At this stage of the game, we've got May and June, plus the accruals that we'll post up, 2 months of accruals of those local taxes. So we'll be at about 400,000 plus that will add to the local tax line at this point in time. Likewise on TAVT, I think we'll be above the $1.1 million when things get all said and done at the end of this fiscal year with the accrual portion posted. As we indicate always that the state still lags behind in terms of those revenues, and that's because of the accrual piece for payroll accruals. But all that being said, we're still grand total at the very bottom, if you'll scroll down, 77.58% of our revenues have been collected to date of budget. Any questions there? On to the expenditures. Again, 83% as a reminder of the fiscal year to date, and we're currently trending in a similar direction. Some of those areas are understated because of payroll accruals that will come through in July and August that will post into the close when we close the books. But we're at 67%, 67.46% overall of budget year to date. So we're in a good place right now in terms of expenditures. Questions? All right, on to the SPOS 4. We've had one of our better months since January here, $497,583.78 of receipts that came in. And so year to date, we're at $1,878,943.22. Now it's really more than that because we've got to go back into from July forward, picking out that number. But overall, we're at $459,813.57 average monthly collections. Still trending about $10,000 to $11,000 below where we had been in SPOS 3. And nothing changed, no changes in terms of bond interest and principal, and then you see that we have to date expended $8,491,782.38. The biggest piece of that is going to be on the new Nichols Elementary School project. Most other things are trending fairly, and then finishing out the ag building, the middle school ag building. You can see $1,882,271.78. That pretty much is finished up, other than probably a little bit of FF&E that we'll be getting at for that facility. Any questions there? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda, Mr. Chairman, is a budget hearing. We need to announce this is a budget hearing to analyze the proposed FY18 operating budget. You'll see attached is a tentative budget for FY18. I will add that this budget includes a 2% increase for all employees. For all classifications of employees, there would be a 2% increase in their annual salary, and then also a 1% for all employees. And that 1% will be based on their salary with the 2% added. Any comments on that? We have Tracy Young here as our finance director, and we also have a comptroller, of course. Mr. Drago is here answering a bunch of questions.
We have an opportunity to go through the line items and discuss it, either retreat or before we won't adopt the final budget until
We need to set a date to adopt the final budget. That would be, we were looking at May 30. We were hoping to have a call meeting on May 30 and adopt the final budget. I'm anticipating the board will meet again before that May 30.
We'll be in Savannah, we'll have some meeting there.
We will be in Savannah.
In June, there.
That's June.
July.
Yes, sir.
we'll have a board meeting on it.
We could have a call
No, I
meeting
see what you're saying, yeah.
I'll look at it.
over the next 2 weeks.
They still stay on the track for 30.
Do that and go down.
That's
and
right.
Come back May the 30th.
That'll be fine. If you've got any questions that you want to ask tonight, we've got time.
We just have a meeting
Here tonight.
We got plenty.
All right.
We just need to set the time. I don't know if that 7:30 a.m. time is agreeable to the board, or whether you want to do a new meeting on May the 30th for adopting the final budget.
We have 2 call meetings. We have separate meetings. We have one May the 30th to approve it, but we're going to have one before then to go through all this.
That's
The
right.
the only thing is, I'll be placing this in the Sunday edition of the paper, and it has to run 2 weeks.
Yeah, the May 30 is the one we got to worry about, making sure we get the time and
When's
date right.
the last day you can put it in the paper and get it done?
Actually, I've got to send it to them tonight, and I'm actually
We ain't
past their
never send it
deadline.
tonight, man.
Huh?
We can't send it tonight.
Well, the tentative budget doesn't mean it's final. I mean, the final budget isn't going to be approved until the May
You
30th.
understand that? We really have a lot of questions through here. We've already got a good bit of stuff on the agenda tonight.
Well, it can be, any of this can be modified between now and we advertise and the final budget that is adopted by the board on May the 30th. All of these numbers are subject to change based on the pleasure of the board between when we advertise this particular budget and when we adopt the final budget. That final budget doesn't have to match.
Be advertised.
The advertised, no, sir. We just have to have that advertised budget, that tentative budget, in the paper for 2 weeks prior to you adopting the final budget. The
But
board-
it doesn't have to be what we adopt.
No, sir, it does not.
My goodness, John, I think it gives us a chance for the folks to see the budget, and then if they've got questions for us that we need to get answers for, we'll have that time to do it. If we publish the tentative, and
This is the normal process that we go through every year with the tentative. Many times that doesn't change. The tentative stays, the final stays exactly whatever we advertise in the tentative. But there's nothing cast in stone. Those numbers can be adjusted up or down at the board's pleasure.
We got to approve this tonight.
Yes. Well,
Like it is?
We just have to adopt it tonight as is so that it can be placed in the paper on Sunday.
And then we change it if we need to change it.
Yes, sir.
And then that one doesn't have to be.
Now we've got that line item, I mean, like I say, we're gonna have a call meeting in a week or so. We can talk about that as well then and see if there's anything we want to look at further.
yeah, I mean, we can take our line items, go back. and
That's
check
what I'm
our
saying, take
questions
them all,
up,
we need to look at them, and our next call meetings, we can talk
figure
about
out.
them.
Is all that clear? Does that make sense?
Y'all agree? Y'all okay?
So we'll set that meeting on the 30th. At what time will be good with y'all?
Well, for me, that's the day after a holiday.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
7:30 is, I need to do it, 7:30. That's gonna be a crazy work day.
7:30.
That could please everybody else for the bidding committee.
Does that work with you, Mr. Jones? Because I know we had talked about something earlier today.
That's fine.
Does that work? All right. So we'll do the 7:30 call meeting on the 30th. Is that what you had, you've got
Yes,
on
sir.
your app?
That's what I've got on there. So I'll just,
And then we'll get together and set a date for a call meeting
Before then.
between now and then
That'd be fine.
and look at it line by line. All right. All righty.
okay. I don't know what other background, this budget is about $210,000 higher than the previous one from the previous public hearing. So your excess of revenues over expenditures went from 572,777 to 372. Well, 582,777 to 372,777. So, and that was for the addition of several positions that we put into the budget. But revenue stayed exactly the same, and most other areas other than the construction area, and one other area I think was slightly different.
And this proposed budget would actually be a balanced budget.
Yes, sir.
And more. It would actually be budgeting to put back into fund balance $372,000. Something I don't, were we able to propose a balanced budget last year? I don't, this will be the first year in many that we've been able to propose a balanced budget.
We
and
projected a
fund balance.
we had projected a $650,000 deficit last year that we had to borrow from fund balance in order to make it work. We're projecting that the estimated fund balance ending June 30, 2017 will be $7,810,159. So with the 372, as you can see, estimated at the end of June 30th, 2018, will be at $8,182,936.
Do we have that?
You got that right there? Yes, sir. That's it.
What are the, and I'm sure you don't know them offhand, but I know we talked about increasing health insurance, increasing our company TRS, and you know, the way these are broken up, you'll have some of it in this column and another in another column, but what kind of increase? I mean, like I say, the budget looks good, but I don't think people fully understand how much extra we've taken on this year with TRS and health insurance. Do you have a kind of ballpark figure on what we're paying more this year than last year?
Yes, sir. I'd say the health insurance is probably something between $300,000 and $400,000 more. That's mostly because of the addition of the $100 a month for classified beginning January 1 of 18. And just ran the numbers on TRS. That increase is going to cost us about $854,000 compared to last year.
That's what's last. We're looking at an extra $1 million in this budget that we didn't have to pay for last year.
That's right.
People understand what else is in here. Let's see.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
No comments from anybody? It's a public hearing.
That won't be one of the line items. Sorry. See it.
Okay, well,
I'll let you slide a couple minutes now.
Secondary textbook adoption. Dr. Evans, you want to describe this agenda?
Yes, sir, I will. If the board will remember, a couple of meetings back, we presented secondary science and social studies textbook adoption and resources. But there was one item, if you remember, that we're waiting on the textbook company to respond, and that was for American government. So we now have that quote in, and it comes in at $44,434.65. So I'd like to present that to you as information, and we can approve it at the next meeting. And this will complete these social studies and science materials needed for secondary students.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let me ask you a question. I was looking at this, usually you got a textbook, but now you get them online and everything as well. But it says in that package downloadable student edition, so they can download that
Yes.
on their Chromebook, and
Yes.
instead of taking these books home, they get home, they can pull that book up.
Yes, yes, that's correct. They do order some hard copy textbooks to have in the classrooms if students prefer that, or they don't have access at home or whatever to get to the online version. Some students just prefer to look at a book, but they do have those available for checkout if students need them.
Out-of-state travel, we have 2 trips out of state. Ms. Horner is taking the cheerleading group, 55 students, to University of Florida, Gainesville. I guess we'll approve that. But cheer camp.
She's probably going under duress at the
Yeah.
University of Florida.
I'm surprised she's still
Run out of room
I'm
to tell
telling you,
that.
that's love for those cheerleaders to do that for her.
She does love it.
And that'll be no expense to the system. And then the ag group from George Washington Carver and Coffee High School is going to the University of Tennessee for a livestock judging competition. There's 6 students. We'll be going to that. It's approved by the board. We'll place that on the consent agenda.
Okay.
RISA. We've got a RISA contract. This is our annual RISA contract that we approve each year. The amount on the RISA contract, the dollar amount is the same as it's been since 1992. RISA operates on a pretty lean budget, and but we get a multitude of services from RISA. Appreciate what they do for us.
Comment?
I noticed they made it clear that their fee hasn't changed since 1992. Just want to make sure we.
Okay.
Satilla Regional Library, we have 2 items on the agenda for Satilla Regional Library. We have a letter from the Board of Trustees, a report from the Library Board of Trustees, and we have 2 representatives from the Library Board of Trustees. If y'all want to come forward and come up to the podium and explain to the board what we have here, and we can have a conversation about the library and
I'm here to support that
all right.
trustees.
Should make them come up here.
As they always tell me, I bet his paycheck's a lot more than yours for being on the board.
I did get some bottled water there at the meeting. I'm Angela Booth. I'm actually the media specialist at the freshman campus, and we have another representative at my campus who was unable to come tonight. I was hoping she would be here, but she had a class, Jada Jowers. We kind of worked on this. I'm new to the Board of Trustees with the public library, and they must have said, hey, new person, we need you to do this, and I said, okay. But I'm coming, this is uncharted territory, because in 2 decades of public education, this is the first time, other than if I had a student who was getting an award or I was getting some type of recognition, that I have ever been to a board meeting. I thought it was people who got their feathers ruffled and said, I'm going to take it to the board. This is not one of those situations. I'm a liaison between the public school system, who I'm a big believer in. I have 2 children in the system. Both my husband and I are employees in the system. I believe in the system. I believe that there are many noble causes within the system, but I'm also a representative of the Board of Trustees. And so that's I'm just going to transfer this information to you, let you digest it, and of course there's going to be a request for some money. It's not a huge amount when you look at big pots of money. But I'm going to explain to you why, even though I'm in the public school system, why I feel it's important to form this partnership with your local public libraries. And of course, I'm a librarian, and so I'm all about some reading of books, and I'm all about trying to brainwash kids into really, they tell me they don't read, and I say, you're lying. You just want to read what you want to read. So I'm really all about, because I believe in the statement that readers will become leaders. And that's what I feel like we are trying to do in Coffee County. I've got technology, I'm so excited. Okay, the Board of Trustees comprised of representatives from local funding agencies. You, believe it or not, are a funding agency. You probably see yourself getting tons of funds, like from the state and federal levels, but in return, you're also technically a funding agency to your local public library, also county commissions and municipalities, because there are outlying, like Nichols, Ambrose, and Broxton, each have small local libraries. The funding for your public library system, that's the Satilla library system, is approximately 50% state funding and then 50% local funds. And I'm going to go to the next. We are the 4th cheapest in the state, so that's a good thing. This is very hard to read, but it was in the document that they kick out from the state. And if I had a little, does this have a light? Aha. Right.
Yeah, that pointer, for some reason, it does not work. It always starts the document over.
Which end is it at?
It's right, the 4th one in the end. We are 60th out of 63 library systems for the percentage that local agencies kick in for funding. So you can see we're very bottom of the state here, but I feel like our local public library system has done a really good job with the funds that they get. No more pointers for me. This one right here, it's just kind of it's a graph, and you can look at the blue, and that's the actual funding from Coffee County, and it's, oh, that works? Yeah, that works. That is the actual funding that, and you can see 2009 was a bad year for everyone. 2010. On a personal level, I was in a different system, and both my husband and I are national board certified. The state came in and said, hey, that 10% we give you, no longer. The local system removed the local supplement and had furlough days. So our family got hit on 3 levels. So from a personal level, I know what it's like to juggle a budget and say, you know what, we got to trim here. May not want to, but got to trim. And you guys do that on a huge, large money scale. So I get that. And so it's just kind of stayed at that continual level. And it's not just you, it was all the funding agencies reduced funding because there was no money. And I understand that. So that's kind of a graph. And then the red kind of gives you like a buying power. And by that, you guys kind of know what that means. Your dollar does not go as far as it used to. When I'm ordering library books, it seems like thousands of dollars bought me 2 little boxes that a 9-year-old could carry into my library. So what we can purchase, what your local public library can purchase is not as much as it used to be. And here's your question. You're probably going, gosh, we got libraries all over the place in the system. Every school has a library. We pay a full-time librarian. So why is it important to fund your local library? And here is, right here, more than anything to me, it's an investment. It extends the potential for learning opportunities for students. When our school doors shut, for summer, for holidays, after school, the public libraries are open. And I'm not going to make people show hands because I'm not going to embarrass anybody. But if I were to ask the people in this room, when's the last time you went to the public library and checked out a book? Probably not very many of you, because most of the people in this room have disposable incomes. And there's this great thing called Amazon free 2-day shipping. So if my kid comes to me and they really want a book, my account information's already in there. It's click, click, click. 2 days from now, I just bought my first grader book or my ninth grader book. So the people in this room may not represent everybody in the communities that these public libraries serve. And as I'm going through and doing my inventory this time of year, and I promise you there's not an educator on any campus in Coffee County right now who at a drop of a hat couldn't tell you how many days left until there's no more students. And it's a sad but a glad time, but as I'm clicking all these books and I'm doing inventory, I'm thinking, we have these beautiful collections that really sit still, or if you take away the holidays, probably there's 3 months out of the year that they're not touched. And so that is where our partners come in. And that's one of the main reasons I see it as an investment. Here's some statistics from last year's Satilla summer program, and they have a children YA library in there that I've worked with, and I've been trying really hard to incorporate more of her stuff on our website. They have a little space for their calendar. We promote her activities on our little news station with the kids and try to promote their activities and form more of a partnership. My own child came home this week, Mom, we got to go to summer programs at the public library. I'm thinking, okay, one more thing on my list. He said, no, you don't understand. They're going to have jugglers. And he started listing all these things because the public Satilla Library Children's Director came in and spoke during the PE classes and trying to entice those students to read in the summertime. And you may be thinking, oh, okay, that's great, kids going to the library. Well, here is what people in this room are going to absolutely love. And this, to me, is why I say the investment of the public library. And there's most people in this room who are familiar with education know what is termed as the summer slide. And that's where kids come into your room and you say stuff that you know that they knew at the end of second grade. They are now in third, and they look at you and do this, and they're clueless. And they actually lose points on reading tests. So if you look at this right here, and you got the little red line, and it's students from low-income households without access to books. And so that's the economically disadvantaged students, which is a subgroup which makes up part of, you base all those CCRPI scores on there. Right there, they come in and they lose points on those standardized reading tests. Now you get students who have access to books. Like my problem is, I gotta find another good carpenter to do some more built-ins for my bookshelves. So I mean, I'm buying books. My kids have access. My kids live in what's called a print-rich environment. The bulk of our students in Coffee County do not live in print-rich environments. So that means in the summertime, there's not extra money to click on Amazon and order books or order online from some other resource. They either get it at the public library or they're not getting it at all. Students from low-income households that have access to books, if you see, there's actually a huge increase. So if we can partner with them in the summertime and encourage these students in Broxton, Nichols, Ambrose, and here in Douglas to tap into those resources and summer programs, we're actually in turn going to help us in the classroom when August kicks around and we're coming up to the next grade. So this, to me, if I had nothing else to say, you can look at that. Kids who read beat the summer slide. Right there, that kind of says it all, but there's a couple more. They've done really well at Satilla, getting additional resources since 2010. They've gotten over $200,000 in USDA grants. But as most of you know in this room, those grants usually come with stipulations. You can't fund certain things with it. These are some things that they purchased. Wi-Fi, and on a personal level, I have expanded my library hours to last more than 8 hours by shifting my parapro coming in early and me staying late, because we have so many kids that may have a device but do not have Wi-Fi at home. They do not have printing capabilities at home. They don't have the funds to keep the ink. Ink's expensive. Even on my level, I think I might be out of ink right now at home. And we've implemented so much with Google Classroom. I teach a journalism class, and completely paperless. Everything my kids do is in Google Classroom, and it's a beautiful thing. If you can have access to a device with Wi-Fi outside of my classroom. So here's where they come in. I have students I've overheard. I went up to the library until they closed at 7. So our students do use it when they get desperate and need it for different things. They have trained librarians that give individualized instruction in Galileo, which is what they use at the university level. Here, I push it at the high school level. It's tremendous free resource from the state. Your tax dollars pay for it. Almost limitless as far as the research and reliable resources that these students can have. They purchase additional ebooks and traditional books with these USDA grants. And also anything that any kid wants in our system, they can get through an interlibrary loan, which I don't have a capability like that. Here's another partner. They partner with families. This is another reason why I feel it's an investment. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you may want to spread the word. They've gotten through some different resources. It's called a pass collection. And you check it out kind of like a library book, but then it offers up to 6 people where they can go to all these, like hundreds of places for free. So it's a mobile pass. So if there's any of those things on there that you or your kids want to go to, your local library, and they've got multiple passes like that. So it's not just like one family's going to check these things out. And for maybe the people in this room, that's not a big deal because you would fork over 50, 60, 70, 80 bucks to go to a museum or something with your family. But for families without that disposable income, that's not going to happen. So these provide free hands-on learning situations where families can go as a unit. All they have to do is get there. And many of those places have like picnic areas, so they wouldn't even have to pay for a meal. So they really have worked hard to partner with families. Here's something I don't know if you guys are aware of. They provide a lot of parent resources and instruction, and they worked really hard to do this. They formed a partnership with South Georgia State College to teach adult computer classes at the public library. So these people come in and they'll help with online applications. So don't you bet that that parent who gets a job and is no longer employed, that their student is not going to have that stress on their shoulders and be able to learn more. So that's where they come in and really partner with the families. They will work with teachers on resources. Just because they have every library within the system, they can get any resource. So if a teacher comes to them and says, hey, I need this, and on a couple occasions I have done that, hey, I really, really need this, and that's part of a courier package and they'll get it from someplace else, and you'll have that resource. They'll also have parents come in that need help with study tips and things like that. They work with those parents. We do that in the school system, but I'm there at tops 4:30. A lot of parents don't get off work till 6, 5:30. Their doors are open until 7. So they kind of extend those hours where parents can get in, and they are also open on Saturdays. This kind of, to me, they totally support our mission and vision statement, and this 89.7 for economically disadvantaged students, depending on how Ms. Henley's, I know there's a gazillion ways you can argue that number. Whether you go with that 89.7 or the other number, we have a huge majority of our students who fall within that category and do not have the resources to purchase magazines, books, e-books, to download on Kindles and things like that. So that's where they come in, the public library, with Wi-Fi, DVDs, just helping out the family situation. Here's something, and I learned some stuff because all of my library experience, with the exception of I was in the library at the University of Florida in the Department of Statistics. So the Blues are big Gator fans. I'm very sorry. I can tell by the conversation prior to the cheer camp that there are not many Gator fans in this room. But most of my background is in public school, so I didn't really understand where they got their funds from, and I just thought, well, the city just needs to take care of them. That building is not even owned by the city, so even the maintenance of the building falls within all of their expenditures. They're getting bids right now on a new roof. When you drive by, you can tell they're in need of a new roof. Here is something to kind of be aware of. They don't have a janitor or anyone that comes by. Right there, a man with the library and information science degree, he's scrubbing some toilets. So they don't have extra jobs around. And when they had the reduction in funds, up until 2016, which is my next slide, right here, 2016, they reduced their number of hours open to a 40-hour week in the Douglas Library, and it was a 53-hour week. And you can see there's a direct correlation between the number of patrons in 2015 and 2016 when they had to reduce the number of hours that they were open. And then you can see the direct correlation between the number of patrons and the circulation. Almost direct percentage if we were to break it down. So people do not have the access to that facility because they've reduced the after work hours. What they did is slide their hours so they're open from 11 to 7. So people after work can still get in. So if you call them at 10, which I did this morning, no one's going to answer. My work day is halfway over by 10. Here's the thing, and when I look at big pots of money, I don't know where everything goes. And I don't want to know where everything goes. That's kind of the people in this room's job. What they're asking for is $9,800 increase. The $63,133.20 was the reduced amount in the 2000, there was a letter in 2009 from the then superintendent, and that's when the reduction of funds across the state, and it stayed at that $63,133.20 since 2010. And so the increase would put it up, and you guys aren't the only ones we're picking on. It's everyone across the board, and they're working on fundraising efforts. So when I present the increase of $9,800, it does not seem like a lot in the whole pot of money, but again, I don't know where all the specifics go. That's the nutshell right there, the $9,800. And if you have any questions, I'm going to defer all of them to Mark. Here's the bottom line, and these are pictures from both my library, and I'm involved in the public library, and apparently my son tells me I'm going there this summer every time it's open with their special programs. That's our investment here. And if we can partner, and I'm looking for creative ways to partner with them more, because I feel like if we can merge our resources, both online and personnel, that's a place I want to spend my time and volunteer this summer. So when I talk about investment, I truly believe in not just an investment of money, but of my time also. And if you have any questions, Mark's your man. Good job. No questions?
Questions? Yes. Mr. Preston?
Yes, Mark, and my mother was a trustee not too long ago.
Now
She
you're a trustee.
rotated off. But quick question, the reduction in funding several years ago, what was that total? Is that?
I believe it was, do you have the, thank you. The actual total funding reduction at that time was $4,745.
And that maintained annually, we just.
Correct. That came off what had been a consistent funding level for some number of years prior to that time. And of course, there has not been a restoration of those funds or any adjustments to take into account additional inflation needs and that sort of thing since then.
And the funding request tonight will help you, restore hours or?
Unfortunately, what we're looking at right now, based on the time that we have had this consistent, somewhat stagnant funding, we are looking at something like a $9,000 deficit in our funding. We could try to find some additional hours to cut or something on that.
if we only received the school board's funding, that would basically put us in stasis where we are now. We are approaching the Coffee County Commission and the City of Douglas. These are the major Coffee County funders. And since Douglas is the largest library in the system, and where we get, at this time, some 52,000 people through the door every year, this is where the majority of these funds need to be expended. If we can get funding from the other funding agencies as well, then restoring those hours is a top priority. Okay, so this will help restore hours, or are you just going to simply be able to maintain your current staffing level? And this would be keeping us from having to consider further cuts at this level of additional funding. Unfortunately, the circumstance we have with public libraries, regional libraries in Georgia is the Still Regional Library System has 10 governments that are co-owners of the Still Regional Library System. So unfortunately, trying to get everybody figured out as to who should pay what and how much becomes, as you might consider, quite a discussion. So we do have a situation where, given that the municipality of Douglas is the largest location in the system, when we have a given library branch that is needing a great deal of funding or something going on, or repairs or something, then they get pulled into the discussion along with the county level funders and that sort of thing in order to make that work. So that's where we're going, is to the largest funders and trying to get the funding up so that we can restore these hours. We're hoping that the city will be receptive to a request we had put in a couple of years ago. They give us a comparable amount to what the school board does, but they charge about half of that back to pay for the electricity on the building. We're hoping that they will provide in-kind support and free up those funds that can then be applied to, and that would take care of the hours that we've had to cut. Okay, I understand. I'll unfortunately, I know a lot of us remember this question. It used to get asked a lot prior to our colleague passing away, but what do you need? I know we weren't always able to come up with what we needed, but totally, I think about $50,000, because one of the things that we don't have regular funding for, we're kind of unique in the Douglas situation because that is a building that is owned by the library board, and in all the other locations they're owned by the municipalities in which they're located. So the funding agencies such as the school board, the county commission, the city of Douglas, that funding has to go toward also maintaining a 20,000 square foot building. We opened a bid today of almost $70,000 to repair the problems with the roof and some leaking of the various windows. We're having some issues with that. So that's going to eat up about a little over half of the current Coffee County Library Board reserve. Thank you.
Mr. Lott?
Oh, I don't know. You know, I've had my opinions in the past on not the importance, and I don't dispute the importance or the value of the public library. Mine was always our responsibility for funding. You know, when we do have a dozen libraries that we fund now in the school system, when money gets tight, obviously I start looking at things that we don't, in my opinion, have to fund, even though I know they're important, you know. But, you know, to me right now, I mean, we are, you know, as we see, better than we have been. So, I mean, if we're going to fund it right now and try to help them out, this is the time to do it. I'm not saying I'm going to think like that every year, but my point is, you know, if we're going to help them out, this is definitely, you know, $90-something $100, this is the year to do it.
If I could, just real quick, I'm sorry. Well, no, I agree. And I went through, as I was looking at the expenditure line and the financial details, I couldn't help but notice that we do budget every year, or have last year and for this year, in other uses, $570,000. And to date, we spent less than 1% of that. We spent $5,600 to date. So we,
I'm sorry, Mr. President, that funding generally comes at the end of the year at closing time. We have to subsidize both pre-K because we don't get enough funding from the state for our pre-K programs. So that generally will come in the range of between $250,000 and $350,000.
I wasn't going to spend it all, Mike.
No, I understand that. And then also NJROTC also typically ends up being subsidized, as well as the migrant program as well. So we will burn through a good bit of that. I can't tell you that we'll burn through all of it in terms of those, at least those three subsidies that we'll need to do at year end, but that's a possibility, and that's why we budget for a number like that.
What would be your guess?
I wouldn't.
You've been doing this several years, where's it been ending up?
It may be better this year because we got a little more additional funding for the pre-K program than what we've gotten in prior years. We'll have to take a look at it. I can get you a number on what we think it's going to be, but that's going to be our best estimate.
When can you get that?
Probably by first of the week.
We'll be having our call meeting to discuss budget. You can easily have that ready then.
Ms. Miller, that comment?
I don't have a comment, but I do appreciate that information and presentation very much, and I have always gone to the public library here and supported. I remember going to those programs with my children when they were little, so I appreciate everything that the system does for our community.
Y'all pass that to the staff.
Do we need to wait, see what Mike's got, or
Is this coming as a, are you making a recommendation? Or?
No, we're listening to them tonight. We'll be working on the budget, so if the board so chooses to amend the budget to allow for such a payment, you can easily do that at our next budget work session and make a decision at that time.
Sounds like we will be doing something, but we'll wait and see. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is surplus property. Oh, the board, yes, library board of trustees, yes, definitely. And we've got a recommendation since one of the current board of trustee members will be rolling off. The recommendation is to appoint Ms. Cindy Papias to replace Ms. Pamela Lewis, who has served her limit of 2 terms. And that is included on the consent agenda for the monthly meeting. And we have talked with her, and she's good with serving. Dr. Evans, you talked with her?
Yes, sir. She's glad to do it.
And I'd like to thank Chairman Jowers for kind of leading us in this direction of getting our media specialists involved with this board of trustees. I think that's been really good for us. That's obviously seen here tonight. All right, surplus property. I talked with the sheriff last week, and we talked about various issues. One of the items that we discussed was their need for a portable unit to do training. And he asked if we had any portable units that we could donate to the sheriff department so that they can conduct training. We have 3 units out at Indian Creek. Tamara, the principal at Indian Creek, does desire to have those removed. So I was asking the board tonight to approve donation of to declare one of the units as surplus property and then donate to the sheriff department that unit.
Who would be responsible for moving?
They would be.
The sheriff department, yes.
County.
You told us.
Be no expense to us. We're not going to pay. We're not going to move it for them. They can get it.
Okay.
Want to pick it up on
resolution for West Green. We have a credit card resolution here for West Green Elementary School for them to be able to obtain a credit card for school use. Mr. Dravish, are there any comments about this resolution?
No, sir, this is just something similar to what was crafted by Mr. Cottingham when Westside wanted to get credit cards, so we'll be doing it likewise, setting up a credit card for them.
Now, we have this placed on there to put on the consent agenda. When we vote for that, we may need to pull that off separate and vote on that item separate. Facilitron, Dr. Banks and myself have been researching a program of Facilitron. Do you want to share with the board what we're presenting here tonight, Dr. Banks?
Yes, Facilitron is a new way of booking the facility. Pretty much it's an online program in lieu of going through the traditional process that we normally go through. Call the principal, his designee or her designee, fill out the facility usage form, sign the facility usage form at the school level, then submit it to the board office for approval. This will take the place of all of that. It will be an online program where you can go in and book a facility. They will take care, say for example, if it's a gymnasium, they will take care of getting a liability insurance process taken care of through their company, instead of having to have someone go to a local insurance company here to get like a $500,000 or $1 million liability insurance policy to cover the event in which they're going to, I guess, be performing during that part of the month. Also with the Facilitron, all the booked events are on a calendar. It has a date and time listed as well. It will actually take away from the process of just having to go through all that work from the school level to the board, and then actually having to get back with the people who actually requested to use the facility. They would have it all on the online program right there. That's part of it right there. Calendar of events, if they have an event going on at middle school or at high school, it's all posted right there. You won't have to have conflict of interest or something going on that might be double booked. So this Facilitron company will take over what we do as far as booking facilities, and also with the scheduling of events. And as far as the monies that will go back to the school, Facilitron will have 6 to 12% of what we actually charge for using the facility. So that's basically Facilitron in a nutshell. It goes away from the traditional approach of booking events to actually doing everything online.
We don't have the capabilities of doing that ourselves?
I'm not sure.
I talked with Dr. Newell, our technology director, and you could describe what.
We can do something similar in a shared Google Calendar that a contact person at each site could do. The thing that we would not be able to do is the fee collection. Actually, providing the insurance for this facility and collecting the fees. This would streamline.
I just don't see the insurance money go to local vendors.
But most of our facilities that are booked right now will be the gymnasiums, the auditorium at the middle school, and sometimes you have the cafeteria at Coffee High School. Those are the most frequent things that's actually utilized within our system.
We don't have that many facilities that we've been.
Not right now. They don't require a whole lot. I mean, they may use a grandfather in an event that might happen out at Broxton every now and then, but as far as a fee that's charged, it's not necessarily one that's actually out there. Biggest, I guess, generation of funds will come through Coffee High School, where they're always booking in events for the cafeteria or using the kitchen at Coffee High School. And then you have a gymnasium at the freshman campus. But other than that, there's not a frequent usage of our facilities being rented out throughout the course of the school year.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. We don't really rent our facilities a whole lot, and I kind of like to keep it that way. I just wonder how much if you post it out there, hey, you know, rent, I mean, I just, you know what I mean, I really don't want to get into renting any more than we've got to. And in certain facilities, you know, you really would almost rather, and I give you an example, say the new ag farm. I'd almost rather have the ag group be in charge of, you know, renting or doing whatever than just a website. You got new performing arts centers coming. Again, I'd rather have somebody kind of in the performing arts part of our school system that kind of, you know, did that than just anybody that wants to get up there. And
Well, there would be, there's an approval process. So
Well,
once
okay,
somebody
that's
fills
what I'm
it,
asking, okay.
once they fill it out online, then it has to go to the department head or the administrator who's
So they've
responsible
still
for
got the
approving.
ability to say, you know,
Yes,
we don't want
yes,
to
the department head or the principal or the approver has to approve the event before it would move on through the system.
I just don't want to ride by the middle school one day and see the auditorium rented out for Cindy's 16th birthday or something. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you just put it out there. I'm just.
There'll be
I just really don't
guidelines.
see the
Okay.
need. I mean, we can handle it locally, I like to think, handle it where it's been handled. That's just my opinion.
Well, we were just presenting this as information, just kind of, just something that we had been presented, and just kind of just food for thought, so. But if we did it, it would require an approval of an agreement with the group to do it, so that, or if we were even going to consider it, I figured we'd better get in front of the board for y'all to see.
Good deal.
All right. Policies, we've got a host of policies here to present to the board. We're not asking for action on any of these policies tonight. These are for information. The first policy is policy GAG, conflict of interest. This deals with the hiring and supervision of staff on the various campuses. One of the terms that's probably gotten the most attention on the proposed policy GAG is the term there that describes the relation between an individual. And it's described in the policy as half-blood. I did get some clarification from our legal counsel on that. And his suggested change to that might be these relationships include those arising from having one parent in common. So that would be something that we would propose the next reading, that change. The next policy that we have presented for consideration, no action, is policy JCDAC, student drug use. This deals with the drug testing of student athletes as well as students who have a parking permit at the high school. So if they drive a vehicle to the school or if they're involved with extracurricular activities, they would be subject to drug testing, random drug testing by school officials. We feel like this is a deterrent to drug use, and similar policies have been enacted in other school systems across the state. We feel like this would be a good move for our school system. Policy revision, JKB, solicitations by students. I had an issue raised recently involving Donors Choose. It's a website in which individuals can solicit the public to donate to a cause. And we have had some cases where we've had staff or teachers who are involved with setting up these kind of Donor Choose accounts. as we reviewed our policy JKB, there is no mention of such activity in our current policy. And the suggested change that we'll be coming back to the board with is a change in our current policy to address such new phenomenon with the advent of the internet and such as this. That type of fundraising is somewhat new, so we're going to make some changes to our current policy to address such activity. Our thought is any sort of fundraising activity would need to be approved by the principal, including such as that. And then also, if you notice in this policy, it cites general community drives for funds, for March of Dimes or any other charitable purpose. We need to work with the board to gain some clarity on what we're going to allow, what we're not going to allow in our schools. So I would encourage the board members to look over this and free time between now and the next monthly meeting, and we'll discuss this policy some more and some potential changes to it. But this is just a first read to put this out there for the board to review. Policy.
Just want to make sure when we do that, we word it where it doesn't throw a wrench in some of the, fundraising we do, because we do have a lot of, everybody's got to raise funds for all the different clubs and stuff like that. Make sure it's worded so it gets rid of what we're trying to avoid, but doesn't.
That's right.
Like a wrench in something else.
Well, that was our intent with bringing this to the attention of the board. There's going to need to be some changes to our current policy. It would limit some of the activity that we know some of our young people in schools want to participate in, and we want to make sure that we don't have a policy that does such. Policy revision, IDE 3, competitive interscholastic activities. When we created the 6th grade cluster at Broxton Elementary School, we said that the students there would be allowed to participate in extracurricular activities at the middle school. We realized that our current policy would be at odds with allowing such activities, so we certainly want to amend our policy to allow our 6th graders at Broxton Elementary School to attend and to participate in extracurriculars at Coffee Middle School. So our suggestion is going to be to strike that last line and replace it with a line that would allow the students to participate at Coffee Middle School if they're coming to Broxton. So we'll be coming back to the board with a suggestion for a change on that policy. And that is our policy that we wanted to present tonight for review. No action. At this time, we have audience participation. We have Mr. James Davis here.
He didn't know James Williams. Listen, I know it's late. I don't take up just a minute. But what I come before you, I just really came up here to tell y'all that I got a message from a gentleman by the name of Dr. Jason Blank. I had the opportunity to escort him to Kiel made arrangements for me to take him. He's a prospective preacher, pastor coming to town, and but he was very. I carried him to Ambrose, and I carried him to Broxton, and carried him to the middle school. We spent about 3.5 hours going through them all. But they was very, very well impressed with our school systems. And what made me think of it more so than any, I don't think nobody was here, but probably Kim, Sid, and one or two of us in here. I remember a gentleman coming up here, and Jesse was on the board at the time. A gentleman coming up here about 7 years ago, he made the comment that he'd hate to know he was in a motel room and turned on the TV and seen what took place in this room. He would be embarrassed. And we're talking about a businessman in town. Well, thought of, but I was thinking this gentleman was at the hotel here, and I thought about sitting down in the lobby, how impressed that I was proud to pick him up and take him. I didn't have a doubt in my mind what I was going to look at and get. And he was impressed with the people, the school, and our facilities. He's from Louisiana, and but I just think y'all need to know, and one of the subject came up was the last line you just covered, because he's got a daughter going, a son in the 2nd grade and a daughter in the 6th, and she plays soccer. She's 5th grade playing in the middle school out there, soccer. And he was concerned by putting the 2nd grade and 6th grade together in Broxton, and he was concerned about her playing. So, you know, I'm glad that y'all are willing to see that, and it works out for them moving to town. He wants to take he'd rather his big sister be there for the brother. But I just want y'all to, you know, keep that in mind when you fill Ronnie's chair, that you've got to have some cooperation. You know, everybody needs to continue working together, and I'm proud that y'all do it. And I'm proud to say that I'm part of, as far as the county, I live here, I can be proud of it. Our school system, he can't even believe that we had that nice facilities for a little country town. So if he don't come here, it ain't because of the school board. I'm gonna do that. And that's all I want to say. You don't get that. Appreciate it.
We can thank the taxpayers for all these nice facilities.
Well, I explained that to him, but it took somebody to set it up and put it in motion and go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And that concludes our audience participation. I would ask the board that we convene to an executive session to discuss personnel. If it pleases the board, then move to executive session.
We need a motion to executive session.
Make a motion to executive session.
Second, all in favor? All right, at this time, the work session is adjourned.